So, first of all, the media needs to really stop what they're doing with these mass shooters. They're just making the situation worse by sensationalizing this, by putting their faces over everything. Like, everybody knows what this guy looks like now. Everybody knows everything about this guy's life. And they're just, pushing it all over the media because, it's beneficial for them. But all this is doing is just incentivizing copycat killers to do the same because a lot of these people are degenerate losers who want to be remembered. So by the media doing all this, publicizing it to this large extent, they are making it that much more enticing for low life pieces of shit like this to want to do another school shooting. And the police are already talking about people talking about doing copycat attacks already. And this is because of the media. Like, they are incentivizing these things. It's not the problem isn't guns. It is mental health too, right? Like, this guy was adopted. His parents both of his adopted parents died as well. And, this kid had problems. He was kicked out of school. The FBI was already notified of one of his messages that he made on a YouTube comment about being a school shooter. They went and interviewed the one guy that notified them, but after they didn't really follow up on it. They're like, oh, we couldn't track the comment. It's like, really? The FBI could not find this guy? That's a load of fucking shit. Like, the FBI has access. They can find anybody they want, especially if the guy is in America. Are you really telling me you could not find this guy? That's bullshit. Of course they could have, but these things that happen are they're so beneficial for the left, and this one is full of tidbits for them to use. Like, first of all, apparently this guy was part of a white nationalist group that wanted an ethno-state, right? So this is not going to be good for the alt-right and their image, and this is going to be used kind of like another Charlottesville. And the sheriff is calling for new laws so then they could put people away and put them in like psych facilities as soon as they notice comments like threats and potentially like obscene images and stuff. So who knows how that is going to be applied. It can be applied very subjectively, and it's going to be used to censor people even more. And they're also using this for their gun narrative, right? Whereas the majority of gun deaths, we all know, are from handguns. The majority of majority of them happen through gang violence, but they don't want to stop that. They only want to get rid of assault rifles, and this isn't even assault rifle, it's a semi-automatic weapon. They want to get rid of anything like that that has the potential to stand up against the government. Like, this isn't what the majority of leftists think, but I think the people on the very top understand this. Like, a handgun is not going to be very effective against the military, against an oppressive government, but an AR-15, long-range assault rifles, can still be very effective against the military, especially in a guerrilla-type tactic situation. But handguns, not so much. You got to be pretty close to somebody in order to shoot them. But yeah, I know that's a little conspiratorial, I guess. But another thing that's really troubling is, like, I think it was like the New York Times, or not the New York Times, but some publication in New York where they're publishing all of the Republicans who get donations from the NRA. And they're like, oh, it's this guy, he gets this much, because they're blaming the NRA for this. Obviously, it's like, imagine if the right was doing the same thing to the left after an attack like this. Like, they're publishing people's names, they're putting like a target on their back because they're trying to make it seem like it's the NRA's fault. So they're like, this person, he gets this much money. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these Republicans do get attacked soon, because the media is kind of driving that up as well, and they're making it much more likely, especially lying about this. And look at Look at the same when it comes to an illegal alien who kills somebody. When Republicans are like, hey, Democrats are responsible for this, which in that circumstance, they are, because those people should not even be in the country legally to begin with. It's not at all equivalent to the gun argument, because people in America having a gun is a right. Illegal citizens do not have a right to be in the country. So when a Republican says that Democrats are responsible for death that illegal does, in that circumstance, they are right, because that illegal would not be in that fucking country if it wasn't for a lot of the leftists creating sanctuary cities and allowing them to be in there. So it is their fault in that situation. In this situation, it's not the NRA's fault. These areas are gun-free zones, typically, right? So people can bitch and moan all they want, saying, oh, more guns would have made the problem worse, but that's bullshit, okay? If the teachers were armed, they would have been able to shoot the kid, and way less people would have been killed. Like 17 people were killed, and tons were injured. So that's unacceptable, right? That is unacceptable, and banning guns is not going to work, especially in America, first of all, especially in Florida. It's not going to conceivably happen, even if it did fix things, which I don't think it will, because gun violence itself has been going down since the 2000s, steadily. So it has nothing to do with restricting gun access, right? And a lot of the gun deaths that happen through crime do happen in areas where there are lots of gun restrictions, right? So people will point, oh, actually, no, it's Republican areas that have more guns. Like, no, those are suicides, typically. So it's not actually, the same problem. But yeah, it's fucking bullshit. They're using these children's death to push their narrative, something that will not work. They're ignoring the fact, they're ignoring the mental stability aspect, and whenever it comes to a white person and they happen to be mentally unstable, the left and all that stuff will always come out and they'll be like, oh yeah, of course, every time it's always mental instability with white people. This is white privilege. It's like, no, but if you look at the kid's life, he was clearly unstable. He wasn't allowed to bring a backpack to the fucking school. So if you're telling me there weren't tons of signs, people were warning about this kid, about his mental instability. So he was clearly mentally fucking ill, right? So that was clearly an aspect. And I don't think that guy would have passed in the ethno state, to be honest. But, it was mentioned that he was a part of that group, and obviously the group didn't condone it, but it's going to be used to further, smear them even more. And I even saw Jeff Holidays posted a tweet talking about, obviously, Andy Worski hosting people of the alt-right, and he's like, I forget what it was exactly, but he's essentially blaming Andy Worski, essentially associating him with the deaths of Florida because he hosts the alt-right. And he's like, oh, if only people like this would stop hosting them, then, they'd learn a lesson or whatever. I forget what it was exactly, but he was tying him to that, right? And that's fucking bullshit, because that's like saying, okay, you can't argue with a Muslim, you can't debate Muslims because ISIS does terrorist attacks, right? ISIS kills a lot of people, so does that mean you can't debate with an Islamist? Does that mean you can't host them on your shows because you're endorsing ISIS? It's retarded fucking logic. It makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, I'm trying to find the tweet, but it's like, he sounds exactly like an SJW. He's using the same guilt by association tactics to try to get people to not have discussions with the alt-right, which is nonsense, because the more that they have been discussing, the further away that I have, turned from them, the more they're exposing their kind of stupid ideas and how a lot of them are authoritarians, like Mike Enoch, Richard Spencer, David Duke. When they get pushed on these subjects, they're like, yeah, we need to use force, we need to do this, and and Andrew Anglin, we gotta tase these people. They just sound like retards. So it's the more that they speak, the better it is. We need to give them a voice. But so censorship is not work. But here's the tweet. I can think of a couple streamers right now who might be needing to rethink their fucking priorities. Good thing the internet always forgets, right, guys? This couldn't possibly blow up in your face, right, guys? Because he's referencing them saying that this guy was in a part of a white ethno-state group. So I don't know what type of argument he's making, but Jeff Hollandaise is a fucking retard. So in my opinion, whenever people are like, oh, you can't host the alt-right, don't host them, that just makes me want to host them even more and talk to them even more at the same time, right? So, that's what it's going to do as well. It's going to give them more exposure, you fucking idiot. But nonetheless, this is a horrible, horrible fucking attack. And unless we start arming the teachers, unless we start doing a lot of things differently, these things are going to continue to happen. And also the aspect about the media publicizing this and sensationalizing it and making the likelihood of a copycat even more likely. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.